G'day and welcome back to Nat Snacker's Yard. A bit of a paint one today I think, and this is on the Virago, and we'll be going from this, which is the rear mudguard, to something like that, which is one of the side panels. So I've gone for my now soon to be trademark paint technique and gone for a bit of purple on this one. I think purple suits the bike. So plastic, metal. There's a question there as whether or not you need to strip metal all the way back to the bare metal. I've always thought you do, but I'm rapidly changing my mind, mostly because it's an utter pain in the arse. I'm really experimenting a little bit on the mudguard, and I've just stripped it back, as you can see, smoothed it off, get a load of etch primer and see how we get on. I've got all the other parts done. The tank has got edge primer on it, and it's just drying, and over the course of this weekend, potentially this video, I don't know if I'm going to do it in one or split it into two, I'll get that to a decent point as well. Right, so first things first, let's get some edge primer on this bad boy. Right, so literally 3 minutes later, got a nice solid matte keying surface. Cool. Right, I'm going to give that about 20 minutes or so and get some black satin warmed up. Right, so there we go, that's the priming done. A little bit of a rub down. By rub down, this is like a sanding pad type thing, or sanding sponge. It is literally, or I think anyway, it's literally weight of your hand, just let it run across. You're not trying to sand off your primer, you're just trying to knock off the tops, if you like, of any pieces of paint that have fallen on there. You don't want it perfectly smooth because you need something for your paint to bind with. So yeah, I'm just going to give it its first dust coat. So there we go, first dust coat. It is really light, a fair distance can away from the object, so sort of a good 18 inches or so, and you're really just trying to powder it on just to start that paint process. It's really tempting to go straight in with wet coats. By wet coats I mean overlapping 50% as you go across. It will run every single time, so it's really about having the patience to give it a dust, leave it for 20 minutes, give it a dust, leave it for 20 minutes, 2 or 3 times, just to start that build up process. I didn't show you what paint I'm using. I'm using what I could get, so it is Halford's Satin Black. I love this stuff. It paints, goes on really well, it fans really well. I don't like using gloss at all. Don't really know why. I've had one bad experience with it, but I just don't like using it. I think you can polish up satin to a perfect high sheen, so I stick with what I like. You can do the same with matte, frankly. You can polish that up nice and shiny as well, but I like this satin stuff, it's good stuff. Right, so I'm going to give that a good sort of 10-15 to dry off a little bit and chuck another dust coat on and do that 2 or 3 times, and I'll come back in. Right, so that's after the second like dust coat, I suppose, and it's starting to take shape a little bit. It's still patchy, but I'm holding back from getting the temptation to go tight and wet coat it. So I think probably 1, maybe 2 more. I need to concentrate a little bit more on the bottom edges. But again, you're not going for 100% coverage, it is just a dry dust coat. As you can see, it is blowing an absolute hoolie. If I had the facilities to do this in a vented, warm building, I would. I could move bikes out the garage to do it, but what I'm trying to do here is just show, by minimal resources, what you can achieve. Not everybody has the ability to paint and do bodywork stuff in a warm, dry, covered garage. This is really me trying to show what you can do, just to stop people from being scared to give it a go more than anything else. It just takes patience and not trying to wang it all on in one coat. Cool. Right, so there we go, that's the third dry coat on, or powder coat, or dry coat, whatever you want to call it. So you can see, so I'm still spraying from a distance, about a sort of 12-18 inch distance, so fair enough to get it dusting across the top. Starting to get a nice solid colour, it's starting to come together a little bit more. I'm going to let that dry and then move on to the wet coats. And there we go, first wet coat, and it's really starting to come together a bit. So by wet coat, like I say, it's a sort of 50% overlap as you go across. Trying to keep your movement, if I pan out a bit more, there we go, try and keep your movement as mechanical as you can. Don't finish on the end, finish past it, so you're not turning, because otherwise, if I'm, where's my finger gone? If I'm painting that way and I stop and go back, I've got twice as much paint on where I've stopped as where I've gone back. Yeah, so you're going all the way off, all the way off, all the way off, 50%, 50%, and effectively, if I'm doing this, you're chasing a wet line across your paint as you go. So it's over, 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 over. Right, let's let that dry, bang another one. Right, so there we go, that is the black done. Now before anyone asks how many coats I generally go for, I use the scientific approach that I go until I've run out of paint, basically. So as soon as you start to feel you can, you know what it feels like when it starts to go, and it does start to splutter, stop. Because otherwise all you're going to do is put gobbles of paint all over your nice new paintwork. So don't try and squeeze every last bit out of the can. It's a false economy, because you'll end up having to rub it down more and it'll make a mess. Right, so if I was sticking on that black, then I would leave that to cure and crack on. I mean, it's dry, but I don't want to touch it. But because I'm going to go for that paint effect, I need to find my spangly silver and a really cheap disposable plastic bag. Right, so on to the fun bit. Right, what you need is a cheapy bag. By a cheapy bag, I mean something quite thin and crappy. So for those in the UK, you're on a 5p bag, not on a bag for life. You want something you can get a lot of like puckered texture on, like that. Okay. Paint wise, I haven't really picked it up yet. Paint wise, whatever you've got, you want to go for a nice light, like a silver. And this is, I've only ever used silver. I've had this for ages, because I only use a little bit at a time, but it does really, really well. So it is a metallic silver. I've had a little bit of an experiment with the flat silver, and you just lose some of that, and they glitter under the paint. So this one's the best, I think, or works really well. So what I'm going to do, I'll do one for show first on the paper. So you want to scrunch it up. What you don't want is a flat surface. Put a flat surface, you're just going to get a flat print. And it's not quite potato print in this, but it's not far off. So what you want to do, try not to get any cast onto your proper bit, is get a bit on, yeah, like that, and then just dab, and you'll get big splats to start with, and just spread it out and spread it out as you go. Okay, so I'm going to move you across a little bit there, so you're looking at my front mudguard fender for the US's amongst you. And get a fresh bit of scrunch. No other reason than I don't like using the same bit twice or too many times. Bit of scrunch, bit of pattern on it, bit of spray, and then just go nuts. Now what you're trying to do is keep it reasonably flat, because if you end up with big piles of paint, you get too much relief when it comes to your candy coat on top. And then at some point when you come to sand it down, or to smooth it down I should say, rather than sand it down, at some point you're going to have to be rubbing it that much that you're going to get to the silver, which is somewhere you don't want to be, because you want to get that nice uniform cool colour. Now a lot of this on the bike is tucked away and you're not going to see it, like the bit that I'm doing now right at the top, for example. You only really see that element, but let's get it all done properly. So when you get too much in one place, like I've got there, just keep dabbing, dab it out. You're after randomness, which is difficult for some to accept, because we like uniformity. The human brain likes uniformity, but you're after a bit of an abstract pattern. What you're not after is a potato print of repeats of the same thing, because that just looks strange. You could do it like that, I might have to give it a go just to see one time, see how it works, but not this time, because it won't match the rest of the bike. So again, starting to see why that can has lasted me, well, probably a year, because you're really using very, very little of it. Right, I think that'll do. Right, so I'm going to let that cure and then break out the old clear coat. Right, so there we go, one coat down. It's still quite light, but that'll darken off with a few more coats. Cool, I've just got some other bits that I'm just going over as well, just to give them a little bit more. Just a quick nat top tip, if you want to check on how it's drying, don't stick a finger on it. What you can do is just on your cast off on the side, just give it a tap. Still very tacky, so I'll let that dry off a bit before I go anywhere near it. Right, so one more coat there. I think we're just about done. I might just go for one more, which will leave me one whole can left for the tank, which is probably about right. And there we go, job done. So that's what, 3 good coats of the can brush spray paint, candy purple. There we go, C019 candy purple. It's brilliant stuff, that spray. It just goes on beautifully. It's really high gloss. Let's just hope that doesn't slide off. Yeah, really high gloss, and more than anything else, it's petrol resistant. I'm not saying that if you need a petrol resistant rear mudguard, I'd suggest something's gone seriously wrong, but it's really good on tanks, and I have tested its petrol proofness on an earlier video if you dig back, and it works. It's really good, even when it's saturated in rather than just dripped in. So ace. And there we go, that's it laid up. I'll leave it to dry for a bit, and then once it's tacky more than anything else, I'll take it inside and just let it cure overnight, and I'll start doing some polishing up, maybe tomorrow in tomorrow's vid, although I do have the tank ready to put the candy on as well. I just need to let that is currently black with the silver on it. I need to let it cure properly, because I've got a couple of decals that I want to put on it before I spray over the top. The one thing I did want to say is thank you very much for subscribing. On my last count, I just topped over 300 subscribers, which is incredible. Thank you very much, and I hope you're enjoying the pseudo show. I've still got more to do on the little Sinis. It started to annoy me a little bit, and the advantage of having 2 bikes on the go is if something annoys you, you can just leave it and move on to something else. So a bit more to do on that. It's frustrating me slightly at the moment, so I just thought I'd leave it. Right, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much all, and I'll see you again, or you'll see me next time. Ta-da.